Here is a map of Europe in the middle of the 18th century. We can easily recognize the few big players. Blue color indicated Kingdom of Great Britain in a personal union with the Electorate of Hanover. Kingdom of France in pink. Brown color indicate the Habsburg dominions, including the Kingdom of Bohemia, and multi-ethnic Kingdom of Hungary. Marked in black, a small but aggressive Kingdom of Prussia with the Electorate of Brandenburg and some minor lands in the Reich. Marked in purple, Ottoman Empire. Golden color of Imperial Russia. In the center, in yellow, the multinational Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The Commonwealth consisted of two connected by a real union lands, the Crown, and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Ethno-religious structure was more complex. The Crown, in the western part inhabited by Polish Catholics, nobles, burghers and peasants. In Galicia, lived, Polonized Ruthenian Catholic nobles and the Orthodox peasants intermingled with Catholic peasants. Western Ukraine inhabited by Orthodox Cossacks and peasants. Eastern Ukraine was under Russian occupation. The Grand Duchy of Lithuania lived, Polonized Lithuanian Catholic nobles and Catholic peasants. In the east-southern part lived, Polonized Belarusian Catholic nobles and Orthodox peasants. Only the Catholic nobles enjoyed political rights. In 1730 the neighbors of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, namely Prussia, Austria and Russia, signed a secret agreement in order to maintain the status quo, specifically, to ensure that the Commonwealth laws would not change. Their alliance later became known as the Alliance of the Three Black Eagles. Maintaining a semblance of nobles' democracy, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth's political system has remained de facto in the hands of an aristocratic oligarchy. Several powerful aristocratic families appropriated central government offices in their hands, controlled the nobles and the parliament. Due to the absence of strong central authority, aristocrats often looked for honor and prestige in foreign courts. Russian court of the Tsarina Catherine II spared no expense for honors and offices among the Polish aristocracy. Thanks to loyal aristocrats, Russia in the 18th century could control of Poland-Lithuania Commonwealth. Constant meddling in the internal affairs of the Commonwealth resulting reaction among some of Poland's Roman Catholics noblemen. Confederation of Bar, first uprising, began in 1768. The Poles tried to expel Russian forces from the Commonwealth territory. Their regular and poorly commanded Polish forces had little chance in the face of the regular Russian army and suffered a major defeat. In 1769 Austria annexed a small territory of Spice and in 1770, began occupied southern part of Poland. Poland has not responded to the annexation. This sparked an impulse to further territorial claims. Frederick, King of Prussia, was very interested in obtaining of the Polish Pomerania that stood between its possessions in the Kingdom of Prussia and the Margraviate of Brandenburg. Prussia pressed Russia to partition of the Commonwealth. Russian troops finally crushed the Confederate army and in February 1772, the agreement of partition was signed in Vienna. Early in August the Russian, Prussian and Austrian troops simultaneously entered the Commonwealth and occupied the provinces agreed upon among themselves. By this partition the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth lost about 30% of its territory. By seizing northwestern Poland, Prussia instantly gained control over 80% of the Commonwealth's total foreign trade. Through levying enormous customs duties, Prussia accelerated the collapse of the Commonwealth. The first partition was a shock to the patriotic circles. Convened in 1788, Parliament took up a thorough reform of the political system. Enacted the first modern constitution in Europe, which introduced a three-stage separation of the paler, legislature, executive and judicial. Created the National Education Committee. Introduced regular taxes and the permanent army. Once again Poland dared to reform and improve itself without Russia's permission, and once again the Empress Catherine was angered, arguing that Poland had fallen prey to the radical Jacobinism. Then at high tide in France, Russian forces invaded the Commonwealth in 1792. In the war in defense of the Constitution, pro-Russian conservative Polish magnates, the Confederation of Targowica, fought against the Polish forces supporting the constitution, believing that Russians would help them restore the aristocratic oligarchy. Russia invaded Poland to ensure the defeat of the Polish reforms, with no overt goal of another partitions. Frederick William, King of Prussia, however, saw those events as an opportunity to strengthen his country. Frederick demanded from Catherine that for Prussian participation in the war of the First Coalition against the revolutionary France, Prussia should be compensated preferably with parts of the Polish territory. Russia soon decided to accept the Prussian offer. Abandoned by their allies, Polish pro-constitution forces, faced with Targowica's traitors units and the regular Russian army, were defeated. Prussia signed a treaty with Russia, agreeing that Polish reforms would be revoked and both countries would receive chunks of Commonwealth territory. In 1793, deputies to the Grodno Parliament, last parliament session of the Commonwealth, in the presence of the Russian forces, agreed to Russian territorial demands. In the second partition, Russia and Prussia helped themselves to enough more land so that only 1/3 of the 1772 population remained in Poland. Aristocrats, traitors, who did not expect another partition, and the king, Stanislaw August Poniatowski, who joined them near the end, both lost much prestige and support. The reformers, on the other hand, were attracting increasing support, and in 1794 the Kosciuszko uprising begun. Kosciuszko's insurgent armies won some initial successes, but they eventually fell before the superior forces of the Russian Empire. The partitioning powers, seeing the increasing unrest in the remaining Commonwealth, decided to solve the problem by erasing any independent Polish state from the map. On 24 October 1795 their representatives signed a treaty, dividing the remaining territories of the Commonwealth between their three countries. Political map of Eastern Europe changed significantly. The Kingdom of Prussia outplayed Russia like they were a little Johnny. Tsarina Katerina showed up as a weak and panicked pledger. Germany swept aside Russia from the Central Europe. The result of the partitions, Prussia have doubled area and began control such a significant cities as Warsaw and Gdansk. Russia gained vast territories, present Lithuania, Belarus, central Ukraine. However, lost influence in areas that were previously controlled and significantly strengthened its neighbors. Austria has shown that the time of glory of House of Habsburg gone into the past. Allowing the partitioning of his former ally in the war against the Ottoman Empire, has demonstrated short-sightedness of the foreign policy. In the future they will pay for the loss of influence in the Reich in favor of the Kingdom of Prussia. As a result of the partitions, Poles were forced to seek a change of status quo in Europe. Polish poets, politicians, noblemen, writers, Artists and scientists, many of whom were forced to emigrate, became the revolutionaries of the 19th century, as desire for freedom and liberty became one of the defining parts of Polish Romanticism.